Hello, it's Gabby here from Confidence After Cancer, and I hope this finds you well. I've got a really interesting guest for you this week. Somebody that I've met online, Emily, but I've spoken to her a few times, and I've got a little bit of an idea about the sort of work that she does. As she is a really interesting guest. I'll tell you a little bit about her background before we get to meet Emily. So, Emily Patricia Fae is an ADHD woman, and I hope I've said that correctly because this is an area I don't know very much about. She is a woman and an energetic home healer dedicated to empowering neurodivergent minds. As a KonMari consultant, ADHD, autism, organising specialist, and Fung Shui consultant in training, Emily brings an holistic approach to her transformative work. Her experience in Feng Shui allows her to harness the power of energy flow in living spaces, amplifying the positive impact on her clients' well-being. With a background in mental health support, coaching and counselling and support work, Emily's journey is guided by a deep understanding of the unique challenges faced by neurodivergent individuals. She skillfully combines her organising prowess with her compassionate approach, providing tailored solutions that ensure effective implementation and sustainable results. Emily is committed to nurturing spaces that not only declutter, but soothe the minds of her clients, creating environments where they can flourish and thrive. That sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Through her empowering guidance, Emily empowers neurodivergent mums and their families to enhance their mental well-being by transforming their living and working spaces, embracing the principles of calmness and harmony. Her clients find solace and strength in her care as they discover the magic of calm spaces and calm minds. You can experience the profound effect of Emily Patricia Fae's work and embark on a transformative journey that fosters lasting peace and serenity in your life. Now, I'm reading that from her bio that she sent through to me, just explaining a little bit about what she's doing and whether, any of that resonates with you. I think most of us could do with a little bit more calm and serenity in our lives. I'm a huge fan of Feng Shui. I have been for quite some time. And I know for myself the absolute mental clarity that I get after a good decluttering session. So I know the benefits of that. But I'm sensing Emily's work goes a lot deeper than that. And some of the clients that she works with who have very specialist needs maybe find that combined with the other treatments that they're having, they can experience a real transformation. So I'm really excited to speak to Emily this week on this podcast and talk to her a little bit more about her work and what she does. And for all of us, whether we've got a diagnosis of any of the things that I've just mentioned before, like I say, we could all do with a little bit more peace and harmony in our lives, maybe, and just feeling a little bit more in control. That's what I'd like to get out of this session. I'd like to speak to Emily and think, there's areas of my life that I think I've pretty sorted, but areas that I'm still working on. Maybe some of what she's got to share with us could help. So listen in now. I'm going to introduce Emily in a minute, and let's see you with Emily in a minute. So welcome, Emily. It's so good to see you today.
Thank you.
Great to have you here on the podcast. So I've told our listeners a little bit about you and your background, but I'd really like to hear from you. If you can tell us a little bit about your story and how you've ended up doing the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have always struggled with my mental health. I was diagnosed with depression at 16 and put on medication until I was in my early 30s. And I came off medication then and chose to journey on a path to a more natural way of supporting myself. During that time, I also went on a journey of rediscovering myself, because having been on medication for so long, I had lost who I was a little bit, understanding who I was, particularly as I went on it at such a young age. So I started on a process of self-discovery at that point. I also then shortly after fell pregnant with my first daughter. Had a bit of a traumatic introduction to the world of motherhood, and my daughter was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia at the age of 9 months. She wasn't given a very good chance of survival, but she is turning 9 next month, and she's doing really well. And she's a miracle case, which I am super, super proud of. But I went through, from there, I had a bit of a catalogue of traumatic events. So I, shortly after that diagnosis, found out I was pregnant with my second daughter. And then just before she was born, and just after Imogen had come out of hospital, my mum tragically passed away very suddenly, in quite traumatic circumstances. And I was her only daughter. Had only ever been the two of us. So it was quite a big shock to the system for me. Yeah. She'd been our main support through everything, through all of Imogen's treatment as well. So we had, so I had this huge catalogue of traumatic events, which then pushed me even further into a healing journey. And I started looking at other ways to support myself. I was using a lot of homeopathy, essential oils, batch flower remedies. I did a lot of energetic healing, a lot of trauma healing. I really connected with myself. And as part of that journey, I actually went through the process of further being diagnosed. Over the years, I had been diagnosed with several things like complex anxiety disorder, chronic depression, all sorts of different mental health conditions, as they tried to work out what was going on with me. And what I actually discovered and sought a diagnosis for was autism and ADHD. And my world really changed for the better with those diagnoses, because I suddenly had an understanding of myself, of why I had always felt a little on the outskirts of society, struggling to fit in places, struggling with foods, with sounds and things, with connecting with people. And suddenly all of the therapies and things that I was doing started to work a little better, because I had this understanding of myself. And I suddenly was able to let go of a lot of the barriers and the masks that I'd built up over the years to create this version of myself that actually wasn't who I am. And what I then went on to do, so I carried on with this self-development road, and I've been doing lots of different books. And I then discovered The Magical Art of Tidying Up, Marie Kondo book. And what I discovered was this was like the missing part of my healing journey. So I'd done a lot of inner work, a lot of finding out about myself, how inwardly I worked, and I hadn't addressed my physical space, the physical space that I was in. And as I started to do that, I was suddenly, it opened up a whole world of understanding of how much our physical space really impacts our well-being. And we can do all the inner work that we want, but actually without doing some of the outer work, we are directly impacting the ability for that inner work to really resonate and really like connect and do that final part of healing. So I went through the whole process and fell in love with it, really. And I just realized how many people have a lack of understanding about the impact of our spaces. And so that's what has led me to really go on this journey of building my business up to support people in that way, because the impact can be huge. And when our homes are supporting and nurturing us in the way that they can do, then we really have the ability to heal ourselves on a deeper level.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And I talked before in my one of my other podcasts about one of the things that I struggled with was sleep. For a long time, I couldn't sleep very well. And one of the things that really helped me was decluttering my bedroom and getting it into a really calm. So, you know, my house isn't always the most tidy or everything perfect, but my bedroom, that's my priority, because I know if my bedroom's cluttered, I don't sleep as well. And it's crazy, isn't it? But the effect that things like that can have on us is really profound. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the first places that I like to talk to people about is how their bedrooms are, because sleep, as you say, is it's the foundation to our, you know, our health in general, physically, mentally, and lack of that is just you know, devastating to us, really. So yeah, absolutely, decluttering your bedroom and keeping that a really calm and nurturing space is so important.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. So it really resonates. And the other thing that's really resonating with what you've just said is the fact that healing happens on so many levels. It's not just, you know, you take a pill and you're better. No, when
Yeah.
there's a lot of work to do, there's a lot of work. And sometimes that'd be quite exhausting, can't it? You know, doing that on your own and thinking, well, where do I go? And I feel, you know, I've done that and I feel a little bit better, but it's not the answer. And that's how
Yes.
I was for many years. Yeah. And that's why I like to work with other people that have been down that path before me, that can share their experience, because it's exhausting doing this on your own, isn't it?
Gosh, it absolutely is. And it's one of those things that, you know, healing, we don't ever sort of reach that healed, in inverted commas, sort of, there's always an extra layer of the onion to peel back to really look at. But we can get to a point where it is less exhausting. And with a supportive community around you, and with people that are really understanding and who have, as you say, been on the journey before you, then that really helps you to stay on track and helps you to keep that energy and motivation high. And there's also so many things that you can do for yourself to support that as well, because sometimes we focus so much on the deep inner work as well, that can be so exhausting, or we're physically so tired from our body fighting whatever needs to be healed, that we need a break from that type of healing sometimes, to kind of put our energies into something that's a bit more practical, that we can see the results of.
Yeah, I think there's something for me as well about being in control, because when you've got an illness or a diagnosis and you're listening to the medics who are the experts and trying to follow what they say, you sometimes feel like you're on this roller coaster of being swept along by, oh, I'm not sure what to do next, and I'm being told, you know, this is what's going to happen next, I'm not sure. But if something like your environment, you're in control of that, aren't you? And at a time when your life might seem very chaotic and out of control.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, if you're having to spend a lot of time in hospitals or doctors' surgeries and things like that, when we were living at the hospital for such a long time with Imogen, and we lived in Ronald McDonald House for a long time as well, so we were close by, and then your home becomes it really needs to be that sanctuary that you come home to. It needs to be a place that is so different from that, because the impact of those spaces is so huge that we need to ensure our homes are really supporting us. And that my connection with homes really started then, because we actually weren't allowed to take her home until certain things were done to our home. It had to be checked for any form of mold or anything, and we had to repaint a lot of the rooms and things, because her risk of infection was so high, that and many of the children weren't allowed to go back to their homes, because they wouldn't have stayed healthy being in them. So from a physical point of view, keeping your home clean and tidy and things, you know, we had to clean like 2 or 3 times a day to really keep on top of germs and dust and stuff, particularly because she was so young, putting everything in her mouth. You know, it was
kids do.
So even on that level, you know, on a physical level of our physical health, the less clutter that you have in your home, the more able you are to keep it an environment that is supporting you physically as well as mentally.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Yeah, it's really good information. I want to go back a little bit. You know, I talked in the introduction about a couple of words that I've used, And I'm throwing these words around like I know what they mean, and I feel like I don't really. I'd like you to tell me because I feel a little bit ignorant. So the first one was neurodivergent, and I hear this a lot, but I don't really know what it means.
Yeah, so neurodivergent is a term used for a group of diagnoses such as ADHD and autism, but it also encompasses things like complex anxiety disorder, depression, any kind of mental health condition that affects your ability to function in the same way as what they would refer to as neurotypical people, in terms of being able to function in society in the way that is expected of us. Okay. So they've changed it from neurodiversity, which they say is we're all neurodiverse, and neurodivergent is more of an explanation of how you are. You're more divergent in the way your brain works than from a neurotypical point of view.
Okay. Yeah, that really. But it sounds very complex to me, and I'm still struggling a little bit to understand the difference between ADHD and autism. What are the differences? Yeah.
Okay, so autism. I mean, I'm not a clinician to be able to give my full diagnostic sort of definition, but from my point of view and my perspective, my autism is very much about routine and structure. So when you have an autistic brain, you think of things in a slightly different way to other people. There's very much a need for order and calm. We think about things to me, it's just the way we think about things, but apparently it's in a very different way to other people. And we get very overwhelmed easily. So sensory processing disorder is often very prevalent in people with both autism and ADHD, because we get very overstimulated very easily. We get very overwhelmed by sounds, by textures, by touch. I get touched out very, very easily. We struggle with making eye contact. We struggle with connecting with people sometimes, so we can come across as being quite cold at times. So that's kind of autism. There's often, its communication can be a real struggle. Yeah. So in fact, I had just before I was diagnosed, I had a breakdown. I was pregnant with my third daughter, and I actually couldn't speak or leave my house for 3 weeks, because for me, when I'm very, very stressed and very overwhelmed, the first thing that will shut down is my ability to speak and to communicate. And that's quite common. They refer to it as selective mutism, which I struggle with, because you don't select to do it. It's something that you have no control over. But a lot of children struggle with it, and it can be a real issue at school, in terms of, because they shut down and they struggle to communicate. So that's autism. ADHD and autism really overlap with a lot of the diagnostic criteria, but one of the main differences between them is that ADHD is a lot of being inattentive and being distracted easily, which autism, they can tend to be not distracted by things and really like tunnel vision. So this is why if you have both, you're often the least likely to be diagnosed, because they cancel each other out. So because I get distracted by things, that's not a really strict. So sometimes I can be really in the zone and not distracted, and other times I'm like, oh, shiny object syndrome, and starting 10 projects at once. So ADHD has now been split down into 3 different types of ADHD. So there's the hyperactive ADHD and what people generally think of as young boys bouncing off the walls, being absolutely crazy. And then there's inattentive, I think it's inattentive ADHD, where they struggle to have the energy to do much. And then there's combination ADHD where you have some of both. The biggest common denominator between the two is executive functioning disorder and rejection sensitive dysphoria. So emotional functioning disorder is when you struggle to do things like just basic self-care and look after yourself, remembering to eat and drink, just being able to carry out daily tasks. Filling out forms is really difficult. All things like that can be really challenging. And rejection sensitive dysphoria is that when we feel rejected, it's obviously everyone gets affected by that. No one wants to be rejected, right? But it has such an impact on us that it can really, really affect your mental health and cause quite a lot of trauma.
Yeah, goodness.
I think patience is a really good thing. I think it's changing our expectations of what you're needing and thinking, am I needing something here, or is this person just not giving? Are they doing it on purpose, or is this my need to have them respond to me in a certain way? I think the key is to ask. We actually don't mind being asked. I think it's really important, because I would never want to speak for anyone, because everyone's so different. And the other thing is that it can be different at different times. So I can make eye contact because I've taught myself to do that, but also when I'm more comfortable and confident, I can do that. But if I'm struggling, so what I would say is, if it's a close friend and they're like that, perhaps ask how they're doing, because we tend to struggle more with things like that when we're struggling with something else, when we're feeling overwhelmed. So I think if we're feeling like someone's being a bit cold towards us or something, it's thinking, how can I support them? What's going on for them at this moment that might be making them feel like that? Because that's what I need in that moment. I just want understanding. I want someone to go, seems like you're really struggling at the moment. I'm going to back off for a bit, give you some space. But if you need me, I'm here. Or tell me that there's something else that you need me to do, because it's just wanting to feel understood. And most people have often spent time being told that they shouldn't behave the way that they're doing and all of that. So we can be quite worried about our effect on other people, which can then cause those symptoms to but it's to do with, so I also work with I've learned to manage a lot of my struggles because I work with my cycles now. So I work with the lunar cycle and I also work with my menstrual cycle, and I've been monitoring them for quite a while. And I know that at different times near the new and full moon and when I'm ovulating and when I'm bleeding, I've struggled more. So I know at those points that I try not to book in like loads of social events at those times. I make sure that I'm around people who understand, that I have more space for myself, that I know that I'm going to need more self-care at those times. And it's about that awareness and understanding of yourself and encouraging anyone that you know to really connect with that, so that then they can share with you the information that they learn, so you can then support them. That's really key.
Yeah, I love that as well. And even, other people that I've worked with in the past, particularly women, I've talked about cycles and energy batching and thinking about, think about when you're going to do your big task, think about when you're going to do your physical task, your mental task. If you're keeping a diary and you notice certain patterns, think, oh yeah, around that time, I'm always a bit ditzy, or I always forget things. And actually some other days I can really focus and I don't know what's going on. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it, to think about cycles? It really does. Yes.
And I think that's what's you hit the nail on the head about feeling like people are inconsistent. That's why I think people find it really hard to understand and relate to, because, and I think probably that works as well for people who are unwell, because you have good days and bad days, right? And it can be like, oh, well, you were okay yesterday, so why are you suddenly like got no energy today and you can't come out and do things with me? And actually from moment to moment it can change, whether there's something going on physically or whether there's something going on neurologically. You know, it's we just need to be more accepting of each other and accepting of thinking about what might be going on for that person, rather than, oh, well, they're not behaving the way I need them to be behaving.
They've upset me.
It's not about,
exactly. Wow, there's a lot of food for thought there. And absolutely, and I know, a lot of cancer patients have said that to me. People don't understand, well, you finished your treatment now, so crack on. Yeah, you must be all right.
So a lot of people who are neurodivergent have a lot of hidden illnesses as well. So things like fibromyalgia and it's going to go out of my head to the other ones, but there's a lot of them. So they obviously have it. They have a deep understanding of that as well, because there's good days and bad days, and it's an unseen thing. The same as with cancer, people can't necessarily see it, so they don't know what you're struggling with inside. And it was the same with Imogen when she came out of hospital, and people are like, oh, she's okay now. It's like she'd have really bad days. She had chronic fatigue for a really long time, and people just didn't understand, and they were like, oh, just push her to do more. And it's like, she can't.
It's great advice that you don't need, isn't it?
Quite.
Oh my goodness, I know. Yes, we could write a book about some of the inappropriate things.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely.
That's really, really interesting. You've given me a lot of food for thought there, a lot that I'd like to go away and reflect on it, because it's such a deep subject. But I'd imagine getting a diagnosis is quite difficult, and I'm wondering about how many, what's the percentage of the population that are affected by this that maybe don't even realise that they are.
It's a lot more people than we're aware of. But I mean, there's a lot of people who just self-diagnose now, because the diagnostic process is so tricky, and some people feel like they don't need to have a formal diagnosis, which is absolutely fine. For me, it felt really important, but I completely respect that for other people it isn't. It is quite a lengthy process these days, because so many people are becoming more aware and therefore seeking diagnoses. So on the NHS it is quite a long wait, and it depends on the area that you're in as to how long that wait is, as we know with everything with the NHS. The important thing is finding support. There are a lot of networks out there, a lot of places. There are a lot of groups on Facebook that you can join if you're just thinking you might have a neurodivergence. So they're very welcoming of people who just want to explore that and understand whether they feel like it resonates for them, and joining those groups is really helpful, because being around people that get it and understand, and where you can speak really freely about it, is really, really important, as we spoke about earlier on, about that community aspect and being around people that understand it. It's so important. For me, I sought a diagnosis at a good time, just before it started getting really bad, and it was still a year for me to get an appointment. But it's now increased significantly. I think the reason that a lot of people ask me what my views are on thinking, people think it's a trend, and that, everyone just is jumping on the bandwagon. And I hear a lot as well, oh, we're all a bit neurodiverse, we're all a bit all on the spectrum. And, we're all on a spectrum of diversity, absolutely. But unfortunately, comments like that take away from the fact that for some of us, we need to really understand ourselves in terms of our emotional well-being, and saying things like that just really minimizes the impact of the diagnosis. So, and I mean, we laugh about it in the community and say that those people only say that because they're actually neurodivergent themselves. But
Yeah.
it's personally, I feel that it's becoming more prevalent because of the society we live in, and taking it back to our physical spaces, because we're so impacted sensory wise on a daily basis within our homes, within the technology that we use, within the public spaces that we use, within all of the constant 24-hour access to information and things. We're all completely overstimulated and overloaded. It's therefore I don't feel like there are more people now than there was before with neurodivergence, but there are more people struggling with their
I can see that.
their divergence because of the society we live in. If you stripped all of that back, I think there would be fewer people needing a diagnosis, because they would be able to manage the way that they functioned in society in a better way.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. When you reflect back, even going back 5 years, 10 years, the way that we're living is changing so much. And I do worry, I've got grandchildren, I worry about all the social media and the technology and AI and all these things that we hear about. What's it doing to their mental health? And I really, I worry about that. I do. I really do.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so really interesting. So much stuff that you're giving me there. But I'd really like to go on to, your business is called Calm Space, Calm Mind.
Yes.
Absolutely love that. And you told me before about, is it KonMari? That you are consulting? KonMari, and Fung Shui, which is, always been an interest of mine, Feng Shui. Really, really, like I said, I'm really into it. I've got it in my bedroom. So I just really, for me, I haven't really got many more questions for you, because it's been so interesting listening to your story and your explanations. I've got so much information that I'm going to reflect on a little bit, I think, because it's been really, really useful for me. But if you just talk about your business, how if people want to get in touch with you and the sort of work and support that you can offer them, that would be really cool.
Absolutely. So obviously, as I mentioned, I trained as a KonMari consultant, so I trained with Marie Kondo, and I do use her method. I do obviously adapt that method, because I work predominantly with neurodivergent individuals and their families, but I'm not limited to working with those people. But I have such a passion for supporting calm minds, as the title of my business suggests. And as I say, for me, neurodivergence includes any kind of mental health condition, which so many people do struggle with. So I not only use the KonMari method, but I use Feng Shui within my work, and I am also an energetic home healer. So as well as obviously Feng Shui works with the energies of our home, but I work on a deeper level. So I use a lot of crystals, and I use sage and singing bowls and things, that I help to cleanse homes on all levels. So I say that I work with your home on a physical level, on an energetic level, and I also work with you on a mindset level. So I work on a mental level as well, because for me, it's all about changing your limiting beliefs around your home, and also around the thoughts on cleaning and tidying and organizing, because we think of those as chores, when in actual fact they're acts of self-care. And when we change our mindsets and our limiting beliefs around how we tackle those tasks, we actually can create a connection with our home that's much stronger and much more able to support us on all levels. So that's how I work. I do a lot of work virtually. I do work in person locally in Hampshire, Dorset and West Sussex, but I work predominantly virtually, which works really, really well. So I have people can contact me via my website, which I presume we'll put all of my links in there.
I'll put the links below. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I won't read them all out, but my website, and my Instagram. I have a free Facebook community, Calm Space, Calm Mind, which I share lots of things, and we do things like body doubling sessions, which is a really great way for people to get stuff done, because you've got that accountability. So we jump online and we say, this is the task we're going to do, and we get it done in the time, and then we come back together and celebrate what we've achieved. So it's a really great way to really tackle those tasks that you've been putting off.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah, we all need that. I do. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be jumping in there. Thank you. I need some accountability. I need somebody to give me a little nudge sometimes.
Yeah. Please come and join us. And then you can obviously work one-to-one with me. I do a 3-month program, and I do have a group program which will be releasing soon. And just to mention that I'm going to be at the Clean and Tidy Home Show in October, 14th and 15th of October. And so do jump on my Instagram, because I'm going to be giving away some tickets and stuff soon. So that's down in London, but if people are interested in that, it's a really fab show, and there's lots of natural cleaning products there, and loads of different organizing tips and things. So it's a really great place. It's really great.
You're speaking my language about the natural cleaning products.
Yes,
because that was a big eye opener for me when I realized how many toxic products I was being exposed to at one point. Love everything that you said. Yeah, we'll put all the links below. Love that calm space, calm mind. I think that's what everybody needs, whether whatever your background. Brilliant work that you're doing, and so lovely to speak to you. And as I say, my mind is still turning over with, you've given me so much information and things to think about that I just hadn't considered before. So good to speak to you. Thank you so much, and take care. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Emily. Thank you.
Bye
bye. Well, I've just finished my podcast with Emily, and my goodness, my head is spinning. I've learned so much from her in the last half an hour. A lot for me to ponder on in my personal life and the relationship that I've got with somebody. But on a general level, we talked about our homes being somewhere that should nurture us and should support our healing. And I think that's universal for anybody. Whether you've had an illness or not, I think we are all living in very strange times. We all know the influence of social media, the influence of technology, 24/7 information. And we're becoming, I see a lot more and more disconnected from our family, our friends, the world around us. So what can we do? And for me, I'm going to put some things into place this weekend from what I've just spoken to Emily about. She's really inspired me to think about what's calm space and a calm mind. So I'm thinking very positively about making some changes in my own home. About a space that nurtures me, because I think that is the ultimate act of self-care. We all need to nurture ourselves, love ourselves a little bit more, and why not start with loving our home and creating a space around us that really supports us, whatever we want in life, whatever our goals are, whether it's health goals, whatever goals you've got, creating the right environment around you is key to that. And I think Emily can help you. I'm going to put some links in to her Facebook group, which I'm going to join, her socials. I know she's quite active on social media, on Instagram. You can get in touch with Emily if you want to, but just think this weekend, maybe on the next few days, about what is your space like that you're living in? Does it support you? Does it help you? Are you frustrated with it? Do you want to make some changes? Because that is such an empowering thing to do. And if it feels very overwhelming, my top tip is always start small, just do one thing, set a timer maybe for 20 minutes and do some decluttering, or just sort out one area, tidy your desk, tidy your sock drawer, whatever it is. Start small, and hopefully the energy and the encouragement that will give you, sense of fulfillment, will inspire you to do some more. The other thing that Emily talked about was all the different spectrum things, that she talks about. And I'm still struggling a little bit with some of these, the ADHD, the autism. The fact that many people around us struggle to communicate doesn't mean always that they are bad people or having a go at us. And I think sometimes in relationships, particularly in families, lack of communication can be such a bad thing. So my message is create a calm space and a calm mind. Get yourself right. Think about your communication with other people. Thank you so much, Emily. I absolutely loved this week's podcast. I'm going to listen to it, I think, a couple of times because she gave us so many gems of information. So thank you, as always, for listening to Confidence After Cancer podcast. It means a lot to me. I hope you've enjoyed the guests that I've had on in the last few weeks. If you'd like me to have a particular guest or talk about a particular topic, get in touch with me. As always, I'd love to hear from you. I hope you stay safe, stay sane, and take care. Thank you, my love. Bye-bye.